You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. We got news earlier this week that Bob Diaco was leaving LSU for North Carolina to go be their linebackers coach under Bill Belichick. And normally, an analyst leaving the staff wouldn't be that notable, except for the fact that LSU kind of cheated. Not cheated in a sense of the rule book, but in the sense of how they utilized Bob Diaco. So remember, the NCAA changed the rule to where analysts who used to only be able to coach the coaches, right? Like they couldn't work with players, couldn't work on the field. They could game plan and work with the coaches, but couldn't actually work with players. Well, the NCAA changed that rule. Analysts could coach at practice. They could wear headsets during the games. They could effectively do all the things other coaches did. The only difference is your 10 full-time staff members can recruit off campus. That was really the only difference. So, Bob Diaco, long history as a special teams coach, coached LSU special teams. I know Slade Nagel was tight end / special teams coach, but saw it with my own two eyes out at fall camp. Every time they were running special teams drills, brother, it was Bob Diaco running those drills. He was your special teams coach. So Diaco leaves, you have a vacancy. So Diaco leaves, and then also Slade Nagel, who was your tight end / special teams, has already left as well. So now you got a hole on your staff, and apparently, according to Football Scoop, who broke this news on Wednesday night, LSU has found a special teams coach. A Grambling special teams coordinator, Aman Anand, is joining LSU staff as a special teams coach. The one sort of caveat, what we don't know, is if Anand is joining LSU as the full-time on-field assistant or if he's joining as an analyst that will coach special teams in the way Bob Diaco did. I did reach out to LSU Sports Information today to try to get clarification or confirmation. No response. So whenever we find out something or whenever they release something as far as an official role, we'll know that. Because that is one big layered in question here with how LSU is going to continue to manage the staff. So first of all, I'm definitely curious if they're effectively going to kind of quote unquote steal a staff role in the way that they did with Bob Diaco, allowing an analyst to coach one full position group. But first, the Aman Anand's resume is pretty fascinating when you look at his path to this point. He started as a student coach while he was at Old Dominion and the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology, MINES. Right? I mean, you want to talk about a dude that wants it badly? You're a student coach at Old Dominion and South Dakota School of Mines and Technology. I mean, brother, you are in it. I mean, you are in it for love of the game, right? Then, that was 2011. He becomes a GA at Northern Arizona, Utah State, and Memphis. Remember, GAs don't get paid. You might be able to get a little scratch from working camps and stuff like that, but you ain't a salaried employee as a grad assistant. So this dude is working his way from a student coach at the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology to being a GA at 3 different stops. Finally, cracks in as an assistant special teams coordinator with Penn State and Baylor. So big boy football, but an assistant on field, right? Then he goes to Texas Southern, where he works with running backs and coordinates special teams, and then to Grambling this season, his only year up at Grambling, as the special teams coordinator. So, is a dude that over 14 years has made 10 different stops. LSU's now his 10th stop in 14 years. Dude wants it, all right? Much respect for that level of buy-in for making this in your career. So also a decade and a half as a special teams coach. Now, the big question is how Brian Kelly is going to manage special teams, because this has been probably the question I get asked by LSU fans more than any other is, hey, man, when's he going to hire a special teams coordinator? It shows he doesn't care about special teams unless he hires a special teams coordinator. I'm like, hold on. Like Bob Diaco was a major college defensive coordinator and head coach. He's head coach of UConn, who had also been a special teams coordinator early in his career. Like, that's a dude with a ton of experience running your special teams. And by the way, your special teams in 2024, pretty good. Damian Ramos is a career 78% field goal kicker for you. Your return game was excellent this year. You were third in the country in kickoff returns. Aaron Burrell was all conference as a kickoff specialist, had only 8 kickoffs returned against him all season, banging balls through the end zone left and right. I mean, the only thing where you didn't do well was punting. And I would say that's more of a reflection of the inconsistency with Peyton Todd and Blake Oxendorf than coaching. So I don't think you had a problem with how you operated special teams this year. You went and got Grant Chadwick from Middle Tennessee out of the transfer portal, and that's hopefully a great get that's going to solve this punting issue from this year that was honestly, when your special teams were bad for a couple of years, the only thing that was good was when you got the transfer punter from Notre Dame who came down here for a couple of years and was pretty good. So, in 2022, Kelly didn't hire his first year. He just divided all the roles among his staff. And then they brought in Diaco, who handled special teams. And then it was Diaco and Slade Nagel this year who kind of divided, but really it was Diaco. So I don't know that you're going to hire a full-time special teams coordinator. Now, Aman Anand, it would make sense. I mean, he's going to handle your special teams, right? But it would make more sense if he's an analyst than a full-time on-field staff member, because you need somebody who can coach your tight ends. Tight end is too vital a piece of what LSU does offensively to not have a tight ends coach. Now, Brian Kelly could coach tight ends, or you could put the tight ends and receivers together under Cortez Hankton, but I don't get the sense that's the path that Brian Kelly's going to go here. It sure sounds like he's going to have to hire a tight ends coach as well. And your guess as to who that is or will be is as good as mine, potentially, with what they may look to do. Had someone mentioned to me, what about George Munoz? Munoz was a great part of Ed Ogeron's national championship staff. He's coaching tight ends and is associate head coach in Lafayette right now. Had someone say, what about Kevin Sumlin? Kevin Sumlin, I think, is at Maryland right now, maybe as a staffer. Like, sure, that might make sense. There's ideas and names you could throw out. I'm just telling you, when I pry, I haven't heard anything credible or a name given to me yet about who's going to coach tight ends. But that's something you got to do. And I mean, if you want a reason for optimism, you went and signed J.D. LaFleur, Donovan Green, Bauer Sharp all this year without even knowing who the tight ends coach is going to be. So there's enough confidence in how this offense uses the tight end to have recruited those guys, but you still have to have someone dedicated to that position. So this is not, the staff isn't done yet. This is a credible report from Football Scoop, and others have followed suit with it. But you've added the guy that's going to coach your special teams. The question is, are you stealing, quote unquote, a staff spot by having an analyst coach your special teams? Or is this your full-time staff member? And if that's the case, what do you do to coach tight ends? And that's something that still has to be answered. But we'll get that answer when we do, and hopefully confirmation will come from LSU. But I like what they did here. You got a guy that's been at Baylor, that's been at Penn State, who's been everywhere, clearly is a grinder, 15 years in the game. He's moved 10 times, trying to find his way up the ladder. And the opportunity to coach at LSU, even if it is as an analyst, is better than being a special teams coordinator at Grambling in the FCS. It's not a knock on Grambling. It's just you went from an FCS coordinator to not only an FBS, but an elite level Power 4 staff member, which is going to open eyeballs and doors to higher level opportunities still, just like we saw Bob Diaco go from being an analyst at LSU to a linebackers coach at North Carolina. So we'll see what's next. But for now, Brian Kelly has checked the box on the staff who is going to coach special teams in 2025. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.